Part 1. The Digital Herd Instinct. Welcome to Shadow Psychology. You stand at the edge of a profound realization about the digital world we inhabit. What if the social media platforms you use daily are not tools for connection, but sophisticated mechanisms amplifying humanity's deepest instincts? Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of the herd mentality finds its ultimate expression in the digital age, where algorithms and design patterns exploit our innate fear of isolation and drive for belonging. While we scroll through feeds and chase validation, we participate in a system designed to reinforce conformity rather than cultivate genuine individuality. Social media platforms have mastered the art of simulating community while systematically dismantling authentic human connection. The like button becomes a digital shepherd's crook, guiding the herd toward approved thoughts and behaviors. The share function acts as a modern echo chamber, reinforcing dominant narratives until alternative perspectives seem unthinkable. Nietzsche warned about the tyranny of public opinion, but even he could not have imagined a world where our very sense of self becomes curated through algorithmic feedback loops that reward conformity and punish deviation. Consider your own digital behavior through this Nietzschean lens. That hesitation before posting an unconventional opinion, the subtle editing of your personality to appeal to broader audiences, the constant comparison of your life to carefully crafted highlight reels. These are not personal failings, but systemic features of the digital herd instinct. Platforms are designed to make you fear digital isolation, the quiet terror of being unfollowed, unshared, unseen. This fear drives the homogenization of thought and the erosion of intellectual courage that Nietzsche identified as the death of genuine philosophy. The most insidious aspect of digital herd mentality is how it masks itself as self-expression. We believe we're asserting our individuality when we customize profiles or share personal content. Yet we're operating within strictly defined parameters of acceptable expression. The rebel becomes just another avatar of rebellion, the nonconformist, merely conforming to a different set of digital norms. Nietzsche's profound insight was that true individuality requires not just thinking differently, but being willing to stand alone in one's difference. A stance social media systematically discourages through its architecture of instant validation and rejection. Your journey toward digital sovereignty begins with recognizing these mechanisms. Notice when you're modifying your expression to gain approval. Observe how platform design nudges you toward certain behaviors. Question whether your online interactions reflect your authentic values or merely perform acceptable versions of them. The path forward isn't necessarily abandoning digital spaces, but learning to inhabit them with the critical awareness Nietzsche would demand of any thinking person. The transformation starts here. The herd seeks safety in numbers and validation through likes. The sovereign individual seeks truth in solitude and validation through self-examination. If you're ready to see social media through Nietzsche's uncompromising eyes and reclaim your digital autonomy, this journey continues in our next session. The most dangerous realizations await those willing to question the very platforms that shape modern consciousness. Part 2. The Last Man in Digital Space. Nietzsche's prophetic concept of the last man finds its perfect embodiment in the contemporary digital landscape. The last man represents humanity at its most diminished, prioritizing comfort over greatness, safety over risk, and trivial entertainment over profound meaning. In the digital realm, this manifests as users endlessly scrolling through curated content, seeking mild amusement while avoiding anything that might challenge or disturb their comfortable worldview. The platforms thrive by catering to this lowest common denominator, rewarding content that provokes minimal thought while demanding minimal engagement beyond passive consumption. The architecture of social media systematically cultivates last man mentality through its fundamental design. Infinite scroll features encourage mindless consumption rather than thoughtful engagement. Algorithmic feeds prioritize content that confirms existing biases rather than expanding perspectives. The entire economy of attention is built around keeping users in a state of comfortable numbness, amused enough to stay engaged, but never so stimulated that they might question the system itself. This creates what Nietzsche would recognize as the perfect breeding ground for what he called the poverty of the soul, the condition where humans lose the capacity for great desires and noble aspirations. Examine your own digital habits through this lens. How often do you find yourself consuming content that challenges your deepest assumptions? When was the last time a social media platform led you to a genuine philosophical insight rather than temporary entertainment? The metrics tell the story content that requires intellectual effort rarely goes viral, while trivial entertainment regularly achieves massive reach. This isn't accidental, it's the logical outcome of systems designed to maximize engagement rather than cultivate depth. The last man blinks and says, "I have discovered happiness in my scrolling," unaware that he is settled for digital bread and circuses rather than pursuing genuine fulfillment. The tragedy of digital last man syndrome is how it masquerades as connection and knowledge. We believe we're engaging with the world when we skim headlines and react to hot takes, yet we're increasingly isolated from genuine human experience and profound thought. The constant noise of digital opinion replaces the quiet necessary for original thinking. The performance of personality substitutes for the development of character. Nietzsche warned about those who would confuse the shadow for the substance, and never has this been more evident than in the curated identities and simulated connections of social media. Breaking free requires conscious resistance to the designs of these platforms. It means choosing depth over ease, substantive engagement over passive consumption, and genuine self-development over curated personal branding. The path forward involves recognizing when you're being manipulated into last-man behavior and consciously choosing alternatives that cultivate your higher nature. This might mean setting strict limits on mindless scrolling, seeking out challenging content, or creating rather than just consuming. The sovereign digital citizen understands that true fulfillment comes not from accumulating likes, but from pursuing purposes worthy of their highest self. While the last man seeks comfort in the digital herd, the emerging individual finds meaning in selective engagement and purposeful disconnection. The transformation continues as we move from passive consumption to active creation, from algorithmic guidance to self-directed exploration, from digital conformity to authentic expression. Part 3. Will to power versus validation. Seeking the fundamental drive that Nietzsche identified as the will to power. The innate human impulse toward self-realization and mastery has been systematically co-opted and redirected by social media platforms into the pursuit of external validation. Where the will to power naturally seeks authentic self-expression and personal growth, digital environments transform this impulse into a compulsive need for likes, shares, and followers. This redirection represents one of the most profound psychological manipulations of our time, turning users' deepest drives against their own well-being. Social media platforms have perfected the alchemy of converting authentic human ambition into quantifiable social metrics. The entrepreneur who should be focused on building meaningful products finds herself obsessing over LinkedIn engagement metrics. The artist who should be developing his unique vision becomes consumed by Instagram likes and comments. The thinker who should be pursuing truth gets caught in the performative intellectualism of Twitter threads. In each case, the platform's reward mechanism hijacks the natural will to power, replacing inner fulfillment with external validation. Consider the psychological transformation that occurs when we internalize these digital validation systems. The student who measures her worth by TikTok followers rather than genuine learning. The activist who prioritizes viral content over substantive change. The professional who crafts his online persona to appeal to algorithms rather than express authentic values. This external orientation creates what Nietzsche would recognize as a fundamental inversion of healthy psychological development, where we become strangers to ourselves, seeking our reflection in digital metrics rather than inner fulfillment. The architecture of these platforms ensures this validation seeking becomes increasingly desperate and compulsive. Intermittent reinforcement schedules. The unpredictable delivery of likes and notifications create addiction patterns similar to gambling. Social comparison features trigger perpetual status anxiety. The constant availability of validation opportunities makes disengagement feel like missing out. Together, these design elements ensure users remain in a perpetual state of wanting, always seeking the next hit of digital approval to fill the void created by the very system that promises to fill it. Breaking this cycle requires conscious effort to reconnect with authentic sources of fulfillment. It means learning to derive satisfaction from the creative process itself rather than its reception. It involves cultivating inner metrics of success that can't be quantified by platforms. Most importantly, it demands recognizing when the pursuit of digital validation has replaced the pursuit of genuine purpose. The will to power, properly channeled, seeks expression rather than approval, growth rather than recognition, self-mastery rather than social validation. The path forward involves auditing our digital behaviors to identify where we've outsourced our self-worth to algorithms. It requires creating spaces in our lives free from performance and validation seeking. It means reconnecting with activities that provide intrinsic satisfaction rather than external approval. The transformation occurs when we stop asking, "How will this play online?" and start asking, "Does this express my authentic self?" When we measure our worth by our growth rather than our metrics, and when we find fulfillment in the work itself rather than its reception. Part 4. Übermensch and Digital Asceticism. In an age of digital abundance and constant stimulation, Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch takes on new meaning as a call to digital asceticism and conscious self-restriction. While social media encourages maximum self-expression and continuous content consumption, the Overman chooses the path of discipline and selectivity, understanding that true power lies not in the quantity of expression, but in its quality and timeliness. Digital asceticism manifests in conscious control over attention, the most scarce resource of our time. Instead of allowing algorithms to determine what deserves your mental focus, the overman decides what information aligns with their highest goals. This means not just limiting screen time, but curating information diets with the precision of a nutritionist. Every notification ignored, every feed unfollowed, every moment of digital silence becomes an act of philosophical resistance against the tyranny of triviality. The architecture of social media is designed to make users reactive, triggering emotional responses, encouraging instant reactions, and rewarding quick judgments. The Übermensch cultivates responsibility, the capacity to pause between stimulus and response, to choose engagement based on values rather than impulses. This represents the digital equivalent of what Nietzsche called becoming what you are, the gradual self-creation through countless conscious choices about how to direct your attention and energy. Digital asceticism isn't about rejecting technology, but about mastering it. It's the difference between the addict who cannot look away from their screen and the sovereign individual who uses tools without being used by them. The overman approaches digital spaces as a gardener approaches their plot, cultivating what nourishes, removing what distracts, and always working toward a vision of what could grow rather than simply accepting what appears. This philosophical stance has practical implications, turning off non-essential notifications, designating tech-free zones and times, practicing single-tasking in a multitasking world, and regularly auditing digital behaviors to ensure they serve higher purposes. The goal isn't digital minimalism for its own sake, but creating the mental space necessary for the kind of deep work and profound thinking that Nietzsche saw as essential to human flourishing. The transformation occurs when we stop asking, "What am I missing?" and start asking, "What deserves my attention?" When we measure our digital health not by connectivity, but by clarity of thought, not by followers, but by focus, not by viral moments, but by meaningful progress. The Übermensch in the digital age isn't the most followed or most viral, but the most centered and purposeful, the individual who has mastered the art of attention in an age of distraction. Part 5. Amor Fati Beyond Algorithms. In the curated perfection of social media feeds, Nietzsche's concept of amor fati, the unconditional love of one's fate, emerges as the ultimate act of digital rebellion. While algorithms push us toward constant self-improvement and comparison, amor fati invites us to embrace our imperfect, unoptimized human experience. This isn't about rejecting growth, but about finding the profound beauty in our unfiltered reality, the messy, uncurated moments that algorithms can never fully capture or commodify. The practice of digital amor fati begins with resisting the pressure to present a perfected version of our lives. It means sharing struggles alongside successes, acknowledging doubts alongside convictions, and presenting our whole selves rather than just our highlight reels. This authenticity becomes revolutionary in an environment designed to promote envy and aspiration. When we choose to love our actual fate rather than some algorithmically approved version of it, we reclaim our narrative from the systems that seek to standardize human experience. Consider how social media trains us to see our lives through the lens of what's missing, the experiences we haven't had, the achievements we haven't reached, the possessions we don't own. Amor Fati reorients us toward gratitude for what is the particular, unique constellation of circumstances that make up our actual existence. This shift from comparison to appreciation represents a fundamental reclamation of our attention from the economy of envy that drives engagement. The deepest challenge of digital Amor Fati lies in embracing the aspects of ourselves that don't fit neatly into categories or attract easy validation. It means finding value in thoughts that won't go viral, in creativity that doesn't trend, in relationships that don't perform well metrics. This requires developing what Nietzsche called the great health, the ability to find nourishment in what truly sustains us rather than what merely attracts attention. Practical implementation involves creating digital spaces where imperfect authenticity can flourish. This might mean maintaining private channels for genuine connection, sharing work in progress rather than just finished products, or consciously following voices that challenge rather than comfort us. It means measuring our digital well-being not by engagement metrics, but by the depth of connection and authenticity we experience. As we practice digital Amor Fati, we begin to transform our relationship with technology itself. Platforms become tools for genuine expression rather than factories for manufactured personas. Algorithms become suggestions rather than commands. Our digital lives become integrated with our offline existence rather than competing with it. This integration represents the highest form of digital wisdom, using technology to enhance our humanity rather than replace it. The ultimate test of digital Amor Fati comes when we can look at our uncurated lives, with all their struggles, imperfections, and unphotogenic moments, and feel not the urge to optimize or hide, but deep gratitude. This doesn't mean abandoning growth, but recognizing that growth happens within the context of accepting what is, not in fleeing from it. The most radical digital transformation occurs not when we improve our profiles, but when we learn to love our reality.